Welcome back, part 3 of the red blob, the wolseley wd1, which is now a red blob. At the end of this video, this will be running, fingers crossed. I just wire wheeled it once I put it all back together, and I stuck some red oxide on it just to stop it going red rusty again. The carburetor body's on, obviously no jet or float in it would deal with that. I just plugged up holes where I don't want paint to get. Basically I want to try and tidy this up, because this is so bad. This one, I'll zoom you in a bit. You're never going to get it perfect. If it's a small sort of crack, you can tidy them up quite nicely, but this was obviously quite a significant bit of damage. To me personally, it doesn't bother me in the slightest, and I will quite happily leave it so people can see it even when it's painted. It's part of what happened to it. Let me get that a bit better. But the way we used to do it, and I don't know whether people still do, because I don't normally bother paint or worrying about this kind of thing, is we mix basically, I'll show you, red oxide primer, pull it out a bit, and good old fashioned polycell polyfiller. Basically makes a filler primer. That's all we used to do, so I'm going to do it again. Now there may be better products on the market and other people may do things differently, but this is what we used to do when I was much younger than I am now. And you paint it on with a paintbrush. It's that uncomplicated, and this is a old tin of red oxide I need to use up. So it's an ideal candidate for this job. So I'll give it a quick mix. So many jobs on the go, don't know what I'm coming or going. I'll turn that around a bit. It really isn't very complicated, this. I say it used to work. This is what all the old boys used to do. So I suppose now I'm an old boy, I ought to carry on the tradition. But we used to use solvent-based red oxide back in the day, because that's what we had. This is water-based, which means you can add a bit of water to it. This has got a bit thick because the lid don't fit properly. Put a bit of water with it. I say I'm just using this up because I got it. And you paint this on, we're going to mix this up so we end up with like a filler paste, and then we're going to paint it on that, leave it to dry, and then we get some sandpaper and just flat it off. You might have to do it 2 or 3 times to improve things. I say this one we're never going to get to disappear, which is not. It's too far gone. I'm going to put a bit more water with that. It's sort of dried out a bit. But this is ideal for this job. I'm literally going to stick some in a plastic, something like that. It is pure guesstimation, and I'm just going to stick in a bit of polyfiller. This is a messy job. And mix it up until you get like a paste. You need it still to be able to flow with a brush, and I always tend to get it everywhere when I do this job. So as you can probably clearly see, it's going all over the bench. Enthusiastic mixing. I don't need loads. Quite a lot of the guys will paint the whole engine like this and then flat it all back, so you end up with a very smooth surface, which looks lovely. There's an awful lot of work, and it won't make it run any better. But if serious sort of casting damage or repairs bothers you, this is a good way of improving that situation. Now I'm literally just, that's kind of sort of, that's as complicated as that gets. And you literally end up with, I'll zoom out a bit and show you, zoom into there. So I'll probably end up doing it a couple of times, which will irritate the hell out of me because I don't like doing it. You end up with like a, focus. There we go. Like literally like a kind of paste. I'll come around this side and hopefully you'll be able to see, and I am literally going to work it in, and it doesn't break away with heat. People think, oh, that will fall out when it gets hot. It doesn't. And this is quite porous brazing. There's a lot of contaminants on this when whoever brazed it did it all those years ago. So you're not going to get this perfect. This one is a bad one. Probably not the best one to show how to do it on, but it's what I've got. So and I have a suspicion this was what was done before. And the idea is you let that go off, which will be quite quick. Flat it back and do it again. And what I'm going to do is stick some cling film over the top of this pot, and hopefully it won't dry out and go off, and we can reuse it and save mixing up some more. Now, over the last few evenings I've just been brushing on that mix I showed you, flattening it back the next day when it's gone dry, and it's softened all the edges, which is all we're going to do with this, because this is a real nasty repair, unfortunately. It's just been a crack. I say we could probably dress it in, beat out the crack and TIG braze it up, and you would never have seen it. But it is what it is. I'm just going to hit that with some red oxide that was left in the tin from the other day, and otherwise anything that I've flatted back that exposed of air metal, that's going to go rusty. And then I've just got to clean up the flywheel and the head and get them primed, and then we can paint everything one colour. I'm not going to video that bit, there's no point. It is about as interesting watching paint dry. But let's just get this bit finished, and we'll come back when it's dried off and I'll see what it looks like. This is a bit runny because I remember I watered it down a bit because I've mixed polyfiller with it, because this is water-based paint. And the bit I don't understand, if it's water-based, why doesn't the metal go rusty? Well, I actually have no idea how it works. Softens the edges of where the repair is by doing what we've done. So once it's all painted, and of course the flywheel goes in here and the head sort of overcomes, it won't be too in your face. I mean, I remember going to shows as a lad, which was a very long time ago now, I know, when some of the big engines had copper patches held on with brass screws over huge, great lumps of damage. But that was quite normal. You don't see so much of that these days, unless it's a very old restoration that somebody's still got. People didn't braze things up or weld them up because it wasn't something you had at home. You had to pay to have it done. So the copper plate and brass screws were something you could do in your workshop at home with basic tools. I think maybe that's why it came about. But yeah, there you go, good enough. So we'll leave that to go off, and then we'll come back when that's dry, and you'll see what it looks like. And then we're just going to paint over that with the, obviously this one's going to be green. I'm not going to mess about painting it grey. Well, that dried overnight, and I'm now going to hit it with the first coat of green paint, which happens to be Lister green, but it's what I've got, so that's what we're using. And I'm just going to paint the whole thing and let it dry off. Trying to paint in February in the UK is an absolute nightmare. It's whack this on, and then once this is dry tomorrow, hopefully, I can flat it back with a bit of Scotch-Brite. And this stuff, I don't know where this paint came from, but it is pretty thick. I'm trying to keep the workshop warm, above 15 to 20 degrees. Otherwise the paint just doesn't paint very well. I'm just going to video this bit. I'm not going to video painting the whole thing because it's just stupid. I'm using a small brush so you can work it in all the little nooks and crannies, because obviously the engine isn't flat or square. You could spray it. Now, I don't know what this is coming out like on camera, apart from me troweling it on. Don't think we'll get away with one coat. I think we'll have to do two. But that horrible bit of frost damage is kind of not as in your face as it was, which was the whole object of the exercise. So it's not gone, it's not going to go. And this bit just takes, for me, painting things just takes too long. Of course, we've got this bit of damage at the front here where that odd, almost like it had a cast floor that water got into and just corroded it out over its lifetime. So it's not through to the water jacket or anything, so we're not going to worry about it. I don't know who made this paint. I've used it before. Tractol. Well, it's a bit of Tractol. Yeah, probably implement paint or something like that. But seems to cover it right. It came with an engine I bought years ago, a few years ago. A few bits in this. Yeah, bits are extra. There wasn't a skin on it when I opened the tin, because I checked. So I'm going to carry on painting this and get all the way around, and we'll come back tomorrow and see what it looks like. Well, it's the next morning and everything is now green. That doesn't look too bad. It looks better actually in real life than it does on the camera. Once we put it all together, we'll have another look at it. But the next job is to get that back on the chassis, and then I can put the mag, clean the mag up, put a new condenser in it, because that's bound to fail, though it's working at the moment. But it's just easier to set the timing with the head off. The fuel tank, there's a few runs in it because the paint was really thick. So I'm going to strain the paint, put some thinners in it, flat the tank back in a few days when all this has gone hard, and then repaint the tank if we can improve on that. But yeah, it's come up alright considering we use what we got. So yeah, I'll get set up a bit better and we'll get that on the chassis. I've been a bit busy in the evenings putting this back together. When I didn't bother to film it because it was just do it now. But when you put the flywheel keys in, I always use a punch and drive it from the bottom, not on the top of the head. And I drive it in as far as it will go. You get that metallic sound. I've seen some people put these in with a club hammer and driving it into next week, and then they split the flywheel. I've never had one come loose. I'm sure they have. I've never had one come loose. So that's how I do it. And as I say, I've never had a problem. Now the mag, these Wyco mags, these don't have bearings in there, bronze bushes that the rotating magnet spins on, and I've never had to replace them. I bought a load of liquidated mag stock from Wyco, Wypack, oh, I don't know, 30 years ago, and I've still got them all. I've never used them, along with other parts. I did put a condenser in it, it was open circuit, and I just painted all the rusty bits on the front, that's it. To time these up, again, you can't really see a lot. Basically coming up on compression stroke, I set it so the drive goes in, because its gear's horizontal, the slot, and I wind, because it's got an impulse, I wound it round to the point you could feel the spring tightening up because the impulse was engaging, and backed it off so that it lined up with its vertical slot, and put it on. And just, I will move the camera, and hopefully with the frame rate you'll be able to see it spark. But basically you just, to get the timing right, this is coming up on compression stroke, so I'll move the camera in a minute, and you keep turning it, and it should then, wow, there you go, it fires about there because you feel it suddenly go over the impulse. Now if the keyway is directly down, you're at top dead centre, and that sparked just before TDC, and I've got some movement to advance it or retard it a bit more. That's a good starting point, that will work. I'll bring the camera around so you can see it sparking. This thing has zapped me several times this morning. Really good blue spark coming out this mag. How good the coil is and how long it's going to last, who knows. But let me just move the camera so you can see, and hopefully it will pick it up. Now you get two sparks on these. One hopefully here, hopefully the camera will pick it up. I've got just the pliers there as insulation. And then if you go around the cycle, so that's power stroke now, it's fired, it's going down, comes back up, exhaust stroke, this piston comes back up, and we should get another spark about at the same point. Hopefully the camera picked that up. Then it's going to go down, induction stroke, or intake stroke, and then it comes back up on compression stroke. Bang. Now the piston's only got about 1 millimetre of travel to go as it comes up just before TDC, so hopefully that'll be somewhere near right. So that should work anyway. I'll put his hat on. I've got one of these sort of fibrous gaskets rather than a copper one, because as I said, I've had a bit of trouble with copper gaskets leaking. So I'm going to give it a go. That literally sits on there like that. One green blob. I mean, when I masked it up, I wasn't sure quite where the gasket would go, so I might touch in that sort of bare metal in there. I've got a bit of paint left, just to stop it going rusty, because obviously everything goes rusty in the UK because of our wonderful climate. I did order a new brass drain tap for it, and it was delivered by Yodel to somebody in our postcode area. Not us. Marvellous. We do have a lot of trouble with our delivery drivers who speak pidgin English and can't read the address, and it's a farm address, so they just deliver it somewhere in the postcode when their device tells them that's where you deliver it. So it could be anywhere up around here, so we'll have to go on a hunt. I mean, it doesn't matter when we get to the point of filling it up water. I'll put a bung in it for now, but I would like the brass tap. So, how tight do you do the head studs? Well, that I guess is as good as mine. Alright. I just do them up tight. That one going? Yes, it will. There's no specific torque. You can look up online, there won't be. So you can't really use a torque wrench. So I just use, I've got a really long breaker bar these days I use for things, because I'm getting weaker as I'm getting older, so it gives me a mechanical advantage. But the trouble is, you can really get carried away. So I'm just using this as a gauge more than anything. Let's just, I'll set it at 35 and see what happens. 35 foot-pounds, I still work in old money. The main thing is to have them all the same. And it never leaked water before, even with that damage on the side. So, there's a foot-pounds gone. I don't work in meters. Let's go up to 45. Just do it by feel. It'll feel about right. How much grunt I'll give it. Now, I didn't put any oil on the studs because these are brass nuts. A lot of people, and they're obviously closed ends, because oh, you can get hydraulic pressure underneath and all the rest of it, and can cause trouble. If you don't use too much, you'll be fine. I didn't see the need, as they're brass, and I cleaned all the threads up anyway. Where is it? Okay, let's get a 50 foot-pound, see what that feels like. Yeah. It's getting, it feels about right-ish, kind of, sort of. Let's try 55. It's just, so yeah, that's pretty good. I'm not going to go any higher than that. It feels about right, what I've always done. Yep, call that good enough. Got an exhaust, which is that one we repaired. I will put a new HT lead on it. So the next job is to get the fuel tank mounted, tank brackets on, tank mounted, and then make a new fuel line because the old one's mangled, and then fill it with fuel and see if we've got any leaks. Yeah, that just needs, I need to put a plug in there, a new HT lead in there. I use long reach plugs. I'll go and get one. They don't hit the valves. It's just that I've got plenty of them. Hang on, I'll go and get one. This is an AccuSpot AC9C tri-electrode non-resistive plug. You don't have to use one of these. They're just cheap and they're non-resistive. You don't need a resistive plug on these, and these don't hit the valves. They're slightly longer. It's the same reach as BPR60S N9YC Champion type plug. You really don't need anything special, and I say whatever plug you put in this, it will die, because we don't run them at hot enough temperatures to burn off the chemicals in unleaded fuel, so the plugs die. So you might as well use inexpensive plugs. And again, get ratchet, nip that up. I'll make a HT lead for that. But that's that bit. So my next job, the bolts that hold the tank on, they're ordinary non-plated bolts. So I need to get some either stainless ones or some plated ones, because they'll just go red rusty, and the pinch bolts that clamp the brackets around the tank, I need to get stainless. Well, does it run or does it not run? Well, it does actually run. I filled it up with fuel in the machine shop yesterday, and just to check for fuel leaks, and I swung it over and it fired immediately. So I had to pour some water in the hopper a bit quick, and I left it running, and then loaded it up and left it running for 2 hours, and to the point the water was boiling, which is perfectly fine because that's how they're cooled. They evaporate the water and you just top it up as it goes down, and it's fine that they boil. People seem to get really emotional over that, but that's perfectly normal. I put the Wolseley transfer on the end of the tank, and I put some copper cork padding between the tank and the straps. I'm just waiting for the brass bolts to come, but I've just chucked some ordinary ones in there for now. I'll get you off the tripod and I'll do a bit of a walk around. We're very chock-a-block in the workshop at the moment. We're sort of stuck in the corner doing this. Right, there you can see the transfer on it, and the cork that's under the tank straps. It's 3mm thick cork. It's for track bedding on a model railway. It works a treat. I managed to straighten the old fuel line out. I thought it was crushed for some reason, but it wasn't. It was just a weird shape because of the wrong tap and that on it. So it's actually come out all right, I think. So it's been sat all night with water and fuel in it, and it doesn't seem to have leaked. If you end up with a pinprick leak on that repair, which doesn't look too bad, it'll rust up. I'm not going to worry about it. But I'll reset the camera on a tripod, and we'll give it a swing and see if it'll go. Right, let's give it a go. Right. Well, there you go. I think it's pretty good. This is slightly louder than it would have been if it was a decent exhaust, but it's not excessively loud. I'm going to leave that running now for a couple of hours, do another heat cycle, and then drain it all down. So if you would like to buy this, minus the little control board and the light box, the engine on the trolley, take it to an event, make your own bits and bobs up, it is now available. I'm slowly going through my container and getting them all up together and getting rid of them. And so what do we really spend on this? Not a lot. Bought a brass fuel tap, new spark plug, condenser, and I have the material for the crank bearing, head gasket we had to buy, and valve springs. But other than that, bit of effort. So we'll call that it for this video. I hope it was of use to someone. Don't ever give up just because it looks a bit rough. Look how well that runs. And I'll say thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.